It's TEDA time.
Living in Terrebonne, living in Terrebonne. You sure won't want to miss it, and I'll bet that you'll revisit living in Terrebonne.
Local Terrebonne Parish Economic News.
Hello and welcome to this edition of TEDA Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it as we always welcome in the Cohen B. Guidry with TEDA. Cohen, thanks for joining us again today.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Glad you are here. The B and all. Appreciate that. And listen, it's an important time in our community. It's kind of interesting how people talk about all of the signs that are up everywhere, but those signs are there for a reason. That's our right to be able to get out and vote. Very glad to have a couple of people with the Register of Voters Office. Miss Rhonda Rogers, Terrebonne Registrar. Thanks for joining us. We
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. I appreciate it.
All right, sitting next to her, Miss Devona Simmons, the Chief Deputy Register of Voters. Very glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. And it just, it's kind of interesting just driving in last night. It was one of those things that I was thinking, really glad to be home, but I'm really glad to be back to something that feels comfortable and familiar, and having these people run for political office are important, but that means that your office is incredibly busy.
Yes,
Right,
we
Rhonda?
are. We're very busy right now, and we usually fly under the radar. But when elections come around, people know how to find us.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so there are lots of interesting things about this particular election, lots of changes and lots of things that people need to be aware of. Let's talk about early voting. It's one of those things that people ask about all the time, but there's some parameters on that. So let's talk about what early voting is and when.
And the one thing about early voting, I think that some people still think, is that you need a reason to early vote. You no longer need a reason. It is open to every eligible voter in Terrebonne Parish. They early vote at our office. We'll begin on Saturday, September 30th, and we run through the following Saturday, October 7th. We have extended hours for early voting. So early voting will start at 8:30 a.m. and it ends at 6 p.m.
So 8:30 to 6 p.m. That's a long time.
It's a long time. It's 7 long days. The only day we are closed is Sunday.
Sunday, right?
Mhm.
Of course. Very
Yes.
good. And that's for early voting. And again, for clarification, there was a time when you needed to say, "Oh, I'm going to be out of town. Oh, there's this issue for me." But early voting is open for anybody that wants to do it. And you actually encourage it.
Correct. A lot of people, things come up at the last minute. Maybe they can't make it on election day. So when they come and early vote, they say, okay, then I don't have to worry about on election day to go and vote. They have taken care of their civic duty. Don't be intimidated by the lines. We do try to make sure our lines move steady, fast. We usually vet our voters when they come in, how long you've been in line, because we are conscious about that. However, the ballot is very long.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we don't let the line intimidate you, but while you're in line, make sure you're paying attention, you're doing your homework, you looked at your ballot, and you're ready to vote when you get to us.
Right. It's almost like showing up at the drive-through and knowing what you want. You
Mhm.
want to show up and kind of know
That's
who you want to
right.
vote for, right?
Yes.
Sorry, that's just the analogy that came to mind.
So I have a question with that.
Uh,
Can a voter bring his pre-printed ballot in there with?
He
So
can. He can.
they
It can
he
have
or
any.
she.
He or she
They.
are
can.
correct.
They can do
And
that.
of course, it can't be any election propaganda. It needs to be,
Sorry
sorry,
about
that
that.
was my phone.
Okay. Yeah.
It needs to be something that doesn't reflect a candidate one way or the other, but the voter has their ballot pre-marked, which I do encourage, because once you get to that booth, sometimes you draw a blank. Have that in front of you. Be ready to transfer your votes into that machine.
Yeah, and so it can't have. So I love the fact that we clarify that. You can't walk in with a big sign that says, "I am voting for this person and this
Correct.
person." Let it be a little bit more subdued. That sample ballot is perfect to be able to do that. But a great question
Yes.
about
Yes.
making sure, because especially with the length of the number of candidates and the number of voting options that people have.
And even the amendments.
Right. There's a
Those
bunch of
amendments,
amendments.
don't read them for the first time when you get in the booth.
Yeah, because the
Yes.
best you're going to be able to do is scan that when
Mhm.
you get there, and you're still not going to get the full
Right.
impact of what is really being asked of you. What is it that you really want to have happen, yeah or nay?
And another thing to point out is that by law, there is a time limit that you can be in a voting booth. It
Okay.
is 6 minutes. We have never had to enforce it. Our voters are prepared when they get there, but there are a few people who do wait to read the ballot for the first time when they pull up their ballot. So we don't want to have to enforce it, but if it is holding up our line, we will have to enforce that 6 minute law.
And so when the curtain closes, clock goes off.
Mhm.
And
We
you
don't
got
really
6
have
minutes.
curtains in early voting, but yeah.
Well,
Right,
well,
right.
I'm metaphorically,
We
it's the
monitor.
pitch count.
Yeah, and we'll just say we need you to,
Yeah.
speed things up. That's why we just encourage you to be prepared before you come in.
Yeah. And again, it's another one of those things that we're going to go over what it is for people to kind of be aware of it, sample balloting and those kinds of things. Is there anything that we want to, Ms. Devona, anything out there on the social media aspect that we're communicating about early voting? Or are we just putting those dates up?
Yes, we're putting dates, we're putting all the information we have, I'm putting it on social media. And our social media is Terrebonne ROV on Facebook. So if you follow that page, you'll be able to stay up to date with where we are, what we're doing, early voting times, that kind of thing.
Everything on Terrebonne ROV, and that will take place at Register of Voters office, right?
Correct. We'll have early voting at my office on the Gabash Street side of the government towers.
The election information here for fall of 2023. You kind of go down to the middle. You can see early voting, which will take place Saturday, September 30th through Saturday, October 7th, closed on Sunday.
Correct.
These extended hours, and so a huge thank you to the Register of Voters for really staffing and making sure that we have availabilities, is 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's a long time for them to be out there. And so they are going to be available for you to do that. And you've got 6 minutes in the booth. 6 minutes. Actually, it's not in the booth, but it's 6 minutes for you to be able to make your choices for that. But we also have a mail ballot deadline, correct? Ron, you want to address that a little bit?
Correct. Right. And actually, our mail ballots have gone out.
That's
So
right.
in Terrebonne, we mail a little bit under 3,000 ballots. And so those are coming in as people are voting them. And you have up until the Tuesday before the election to request a mail ballot. I do not recommend waiting that long. Law says I have to put it in the mail to you.
Right.
But then you have till the day before the election, 4:30 in my office to get your voted ballot back.
Okay. Very good. Right. And so 10/10/20, right?
Mhm.
October 10th, a very important date for that. They've got to be returned by October the 13th.
Correct.
By
4:30.
Yeah. And now for people that want to go and early vote, it's located at the Register of Voters office, and that's 8026 Main Street, Suite 101 in Government Towers. Parking is located on the Gabash Street side of the towers. And it's important to know that sample ballots are available for people to do that. There's a couple of different ways to get those.
That's right. That's right. People can view their sample ballots on the Go Vote app, or they can come into my office as well. And we have sample ballots posted. A lot of people want to come in and see it, and I even have little sheets that they can write their choices down on because they are allowed to take that into the booth with them.
Okay. And again, they can bring that information in as long as it's not large.
Anything electioneering is not allowed.
Right. Do not allow electioneering anywhere near the Register of Voters office for that. But people who are a little bit more advanced, Devona, let's talk about what they can do.
Yes, you can go on the Secretary of State's website and use the voter portal there. That way, when you put in all the required information, it will bring up your sample ballot. You can look at it, you can print it out and make your choices and bring it in the booth with you.
Yeah, and people can do that either on their computer or on their phone.
Yes.
Right. And so that's just one of those things that people can do that are a little bit more advanced. If you don't know how to do that, ask a young person. They'll be able to do that for us. Right. And so it's another way to be able to make things easier for people. We also want to make it easier to let them know how and where they can go into the building.
Correct.
Right. So, Aaron, if you wouldn't mind, put the map up so we can let people know, because we're talking about right here, Government Tower, early voting for traffic and parking. And so walk us through this, Rhonda, if you don't mind, about where we are and what we need to do.
I'm expecting a large turnout for early voting.
Yes.
And because of that, we wanted to make it a little easier and more accessible for our voters to come into the office. So we are going to block off the entrance of Gabash Street because we need to make sure we have enough covered line for our voters to wait in.
Okay.
We're going to have a tent on the side of my office,
Okay.
and we're going to have a tent to go behind my office as well. And that's where our line will be.
And that's blue in the right corner of this graphic.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're also changing the way voters enter. You're now going to enter through my exit door and exit through my enter door, just so that I could fit more machines. I need to be able to accommodate more voters. This is growing in popularity. So I'm at 14 machines, which is the max I can fit in my office. So I want to be able to accommodate them, and I don't want them to have to wait in line too long, but do expect to wait in line.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're 14 machines.
Correct.
You know, it's 14
Mhm.
machines, and that's going to make things a little bit easier as we're going to move through. Hopefully, people are on the 1 to 2 to maybe 3 minute timeline, not
Right.
the 3
They're
to 6
prepared.
minute timeline. And again, you mentioned something that's very, very important. It's important to know where to go. We're going to do prints. We're going to go in through the outdoor, and we're going to make sure that people are better prepared. Review your sample ballots. Again, you can go to govote.com, right?
Correct.
Or you can go to the website, Secretary of State, right?
Which is also Go Vote,
Right.
GEAUX
Right.
vote.com.
Yeah, the best way to say anything is
That's right.
GEAUX. Go that way. Go vote. And so, again, we want to make sure that people are coming and going as smoothly as possible. But I like the fact that people are now embracing this idea about early voting.
Mhm.
And so it kind of prevents from such a complexity for the day itself.
It's convenient.
Mhm.
We designed it, and the parish worked well with us to help us get all of this situated and make sure we have the things we need to accommodate our voters. So the parking is what it is. We're going to
Right.
have the handicaps parking, but the voters will have to walk to get to our line. But I'm hoping that it'll be a good flow, and I think we have a good thing in
And
place.
if people have questions, where can they call, Ron? If
They can call my office. The
Right.
number's 985-873-6533.
6533. And again, that's at 8026 Main Street, Suite 101. They're going to have 14 voting machines there in that office. We're going to come in through the exit where there are going to be 2 tents, and you're going to see that. You may have to park and walk a little bit, but for the convenience of early voting, that's what we need to do, with the exception of those disability parking. And so we can't thank you enough for all of the hours that you guys are prepping to do and put in to make it easier for people to go out and vote. We want people to go vote, GAUX, go vote. And the best way to do that is to be prepared. One of the ways it's important to be prepared is to really check your sample ballots, and they can go get some help at your office with that,
Correct.
right?
Yes, we can help them. We can show them exactly what their ballot is. We have 19 different ballot styles in Terrebonne Parish. So your ballot may not look like my ballot depending
Correct.
on where I live. So we want to make sure you know exactly what is on your ballot and who is on your ballot. This is a big candidate election.
Yes.
A lot of people are used to seeing certain names on their ballot. However, we did have a redistricting year this year.
Correct.
So some of our state reps, state senator districts have changed along with our council districts.
Right.
So we want to make sure voters are confident that they're in the right districts and that they know exactly who they are voting for and who will be on their ballot.
Yeah, because so very often people will go in and go, "Oh, well, I thought we were District 5, but we're not. We're District 6."
Correct.
And so they're familiarized themselves, maybe the platform of some of the people running for council in that area. And sometimes people don't even know what district they're in.
And I think another confusing issue is that some of our lines go down a street. So the person who lives across the street from you is in a different district than you are in. Therefore, that candidate's signs might be on both sides of the street. They're still hitting all their voters. It's just maybe not a sign in their district. So we do have
Right.
some voter confusion when it comes to the districts. So we want to be there to say, okay, let's make sure you are in the right district. Let us help you find that information.
And you know, some of the northern part of the parish on Highway 316, it's terrible on one side, Fuchs on the
Foods
other.
on the other.
It's just one of those things where we try to help out, and our local agencies try to help them out on both sides. But when it comes to that delineation, you got to be able to vote where it is that
That's
you're
a hard
scheduled to
line.
vote,
And
right?
yes, that's right. That's right. Those lines are there and we have to follow those
Right.
district lines.
And again, I love the idea that y'all are more than open and welcome to be able to help people with that. So they can always stop by and see you. And again, that's at 8026 Main Street, Suite 101, which is Government Towers. But let's give out that phone number once again. I know I've asked you to do that twice already. I just want our voters in the area to be empowered to be able to get their questions answered ahead of time. So that phone number again.
It's 985-873-6533. And we are there. A person's going to pick up the phone. You're not going to get to a robot. You're going to get to one of us. And we have enough staff to be there to help you and answer those questions.
Wow. I love that idea, especially because we're expecting more early voting. We're expecting that a lot more people are going to get out and vote. There's so many more candidates here now. I mean, we're talking lots of candidates, some 9 for our parish president alone. And so that's important for us to be able to know. And not to mention these amendments that tend to be a little wordy, right?
Correct.
And I'm not saying that that's a good thing or bad thing. It's important to be able to understand, but people need to be prepared. When we say be prepared, get a sample ballot, know what district you're in, know whom you have the option to vote for, and familiarize yourself with the intent of the amendments.
Correct. And part of the reasoning behind that Go Vote app and that sample ballot in the palm of your hand is to start that election talk conversation. And it should be done comfortably in your home. You don't want to get into the political side of things, and we don't encourage anybody to get over, in fights over it, but to have a conversation as, okay, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And it gets that election talk going between families, between friends, and makes it relevant. Right now, this is what we're doing. This is important. We all need to show up. We all need to vote.
Yeah, and let your voice be heard. And the way that your voice is heard, if you're disappointed in anything in our parish, step up and vote.
Correct.
That's your first step to having your voice heard.
And this is a big one. We're going from governor all the way down to your council members.
Right.
These people are changing. So
Right.
this is a time for change. Be a part of that change.
Yeah. And, one of those things you talk about who to do that with. For me, I'm very, very glad to do that with one of the smartest people I know, the least educated, but one of the smartest people I know. He and I discuss every year, every time we have elections come up, down to every word of each amendment. Because I want to make sure, hey, did I understand this right?
Correct.
Did you understand this right? Tell me what you think. And so he and I we're about 90% in agreement. But when we disagree, it's not a big deal.
Still a civil disagreement.
That is correct. We can agree to disagree. And maybe, just maybe, that should be the theme of how we move forward politically, that we just agree to disagree in certain areas and know that. So some final thoughts. Ms. Devona, we'll start with you. Final thoughts.
We just want you to come out and vote. Be prepared, like we've said over this segment. Be prepared so that when you do come out, you can make your choices and you will have voted.
Very good. Ms. Rhonda, last thoughts.
And just be confident in our system. We have a great election system here in Louisiana. We're doing everything we can to make sure we maintain confidence in our elections and integrity in our elections. So come out, early vote, vote on election day. If you choose not to early vote, vote on election day at your precinct location. Let your voice be heard.
Right. Cohen's final thoughts.
This
10
is
seconds.
so very important to our parish, to our state, and everything else. And that's why I wanted to invite these ladies on, so they could speak from the heart and the truth, and it's something they do every day. So
I love it. I appreciate it. Ladies, thanks for joining us. Cohen, as always, we appreciate it.
thank you.
And that will do it for this particular segment of TEDA Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.